What is up, Warriors? It's Coach Rob. Welcome back to the Battle Heart Podcast, where we turn pain into progress. Today, I sat down with Nina Perez, a transformational life coach, a speaker, author, and host of her podcast, Straight Talk, No Sugar. Nina's story is raw and powerful, from surviving abuse, homelessness, and near death experiences to finding faith and rebuilding her life with purpose. She shows us what true surrender, healing, and resilience actually looks like. In this conversation, we spoke about breaking free from the loop of depression and anxiety, the power of faith, and why your words can either wound or heal, and how to stop repeating the pains of your past. If you've ever battled darkness and wondered how to rise again, this episode is going to hit deep. Let's lock in and battle harder.
Faced battles most never fought, pain, struggle, adversity. But here, we use that as fuel. This is the Battle Harder podcast, where we motivate, educate, and inspire warriors of life, veterans, survivors, leaders. We share stories and strategies to turn pain into progress. Here's your host, Coach Rob. Let's lock in and battle harder.
She's a transformational life coach, a motivational speaker, an author, and she has a podcast, which I was a guest on. So you better go listen to that episode called Host. She's the host of Straight Talk, No Sugar Added with Nina Perez. So I'd like to welcome the infamous Nina Perez to the Battle Harder podcast. Thank you for joining me today.
I am so glad to be here, Rob. It's been a long time coming.
Yes, maybe this is the episode to end all episodes. I love having my females on because everybody thinks I'm this big, scary, tough, men, and that I don't like any kind of other different perspective. But I do appreciate having females on and having the female perspective. Is there anything else you'd like to introduce yourself as or tell the public that you're currently doing besides what I already introduced you?
Yeah, so the podcast Straight Talk No Sugar Added is going really, really well and it's growing. But I'm starting a new venture because I have finally just paused to find what it is that I want to do in life. So I'm starting a new venture called The Purpose Filled Kitchen. It's going to be a YouTube channel that does a bunch of recipes, but it also does this real deep conversations over the kitchen table right after we cook. Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome. So with that, are like you going to have actual guests in the place with you while you cook?
Well, they'll be cooking with me. So yeah,
Okay.
we'll be popping on, doing a recipe together, or I'll do them by myself depending on the episode. But yeah, I've had already a few guests. I'm also going to be going to a lot of different restaurants in the Austin, Texas area and Dallas and all that. And just talking to like the entrepreneurs and stuff like that about cooking and life and what they do it for, what's the purpose, all that kind of stuff.
That's amazing. And from our interactions and being on your podcast, and you always seem like a bubbly, happy person, big personality, but it wasn't always like that, right? Like start to walk us through because, guys, I thrive on the darkness. Like I kind of live in the darkness, kind of like Batman. I kind of just like being there and hanging out there so I can find out all the cool things that people dealt with. Well, it wasn't cool things that you dealt with, but all the things you dealt with and how you got out of that. So take us through some of that history of the earlier days of Nina Perez.
Yeah, well, I talk a lot about this in my book, right? So because I have been through a lot of things and some of it has been, being, molested by my stepfather, being abused, domestic violent relationship that almost ended in my murder. I had a son at 15 years old. Another one at 21, single mom, like the whole thing, right? So, and I've been homeless. I've lost my home and everything. I've lived in shelters, the whole gamut of things, right? So it has been a lot of pain, a lot of, mental health, a lot of struggle, a lot of depression, anxiety, things like that in my life. And I just want, faith plays a big part for me, Rob. So, once I got a little bit older and really started to dive into what does faith mean and get into, learning more about God and all that, that's where my life started shifting. And I was able to release a lot of those heavy burdens in my life. It was a lot to carry, as you know, right? I mean, you have this podcast for a reason. We carry a lot. And sometimes I feel like it's not justified how long we carry it in our life, because my stepfather did that to me. My X almost murdered me, like the whole thing. But how long am I going to keep repeating that in my life? At least that's what I started to, come to terms with.
So, what was the darkest moment, or what was the
Mm,
thing, I
mm,
guess, that happened where you had this spiritual awakening? Or, most people with the shit we go through, and you're right, this is why I do the show, because for everything I've been through, and nobody's trauma is bigger than anybody's else, but for
right.
all the shit that I went through, you went through a hell of a lot more. And you're very well put together. You speak very well. Like I said, you have that bubbly personality. Just a few interactions we've had, I've always enjoyed speaking to you. So what was that moment like? Like, what was that shift that you knew you had to happen? That was either, well, I give up and I'm no longer on this earth, or it's time
Yeah.
to move forward.
Yeah, I think I tell my kids this, I think they saved my life, honestly, because, before I had my son, I had him at 15 years old, right? So I'm a kid in middle school, pregnant, okay?
Wow.
And I remember thinking before I was pregnant, I remember just I went into the bathroom, I drank a whole bottle of pills. I like tried to end it because the domestic violence was just so bad. I couldn't take it, and I didn't have anybody protecting me or watching over me. And it didn't happen. I ended up throwing it all up and all the other things. And here I am today, right? And when he tried to kill me, he put a gun to my head, he pulled the trigger, but the safety jam got locked on the gun. And
Wow.
I never forget that, right? Like even as I'm telling you, I still feel it in my throat, like that lump that comes up. And I've forgiven him and I've moved on with all of that. But the moments for me were like really just I was in a loop of depression and anxiety and worry and depression and anxiety. It was just a loop I couldn't get out of. And I remember just crying myself on the floor and just saying, "Okay, God, that's it. I don't know what to
I
do."
give up. Right,
Yeah,
right.
like I'm waving the flag. I surrender. I can't do this anymore. I'm depressed all the time. I'm thinking about running my car into a tree. Like all of these things. Like if I just go over a bridge, this will be fine. It'll be over with quickly. And I realized that it was my kids that kept me here because I kept saying, "But I can't leave my kids. But I can't leave my kids." And then I just remember, Rob, one day just literally waving that flag, surrendering it all, tired of the whole rigmarole and the loop. And I literally just gave it to God. And all I remember is that after crying and everything and praying, I felt like something lifted off of my body. And I remember thinking, I don't feel depressed. Like that's weird because all my life
Hmm.
I've been feeling that way. So it was a different feeling. And I didn't honestly, this is kind of weird, I think, but I didn't even know who I was without it. It had become such a part of me, the depression and the
No, definitely.
anxiety. Yeah. That when I let it go, when I literally just gave it to God and let it go, I didn't know who I was. Now it was a whole rediscovering who Nina is, because I was like, I'm not depressed anymore. Now, how am I going to use that as a clutch? Because it was for me. If I didn't want to go anywhere, oh, I can't, I don't feel well, oh, woe is me. And that's just the way I was. I'm not saying that's how other people are. That's just the
Right,
way
right.
I was. And it was a big, heavy burden for me. And so when I started to realize that I was worthy, that I was worth more, that I can make a decision every day of what it is I want to do, that I can actually shift the way I'm thinking, that adversity just magnifies the issue and we forget the bigger picture, right? And when I started to lean on my faith and my spiritual grounding, I realized that I didn't need to be that person anymore, the depressed person, the anxious person. And I haven't been depressed in, well, I mean, it has to be close to 30 years. But it doesn't mean it doesn't come. Let me not sit here and lie to you. It doesn't mean like when issues are strong that I don't feel like I can get it back, because I honestly can. And I think we all go through ebbs and flows, but I don't remember the date, but I do remember the feeling of
Hmm.
surrender. Just literal surrender. Yeah.
And I like what you said. I don't think what you said is weird at all. I think it's just hard to explain because when you're such a negative, in the dark, depressed person, it
Mhm,
becomes
mhm,
your new normal. You don't want it to
mhm.
be your new normal, but you adopt this, okay, the dumpster fire, everything's fine. This is what I am now. I'm just
Yeah,
Mr. Depressed, Mr. Angry, Mr. Upset, and you get in that insanity loop, like you said, of not being able to do anything about it. And then, like you said, when you come to what you feel is, I guess, your new normal or your happy personality, or you're kind of at peace, you're like, I don't know how to, like, is this right? Because you
right,
operated in the negative
right.
so long. Um, was there any, like, did you grow up at, like, why religion? Did you grow up in a religious household? Was there something there, or was it just internally, like, you're in the house, the abuser's gone, and you're just like at your wits end, and you just kind of cried out to the heavens, and there it was, kind of thing?
Yeah, the abuser I had left a long time ago before this because my second son is from my first marriage. And I was able to, so let me back up to answer your question. My grandmother raised me as a Catholic, right?
Mm,
So I was raised Catholic, did my communion confirmation, but I never felt connected. I never felt connected. In fact, I thought it was just, oh, I got to go and confess to this priest who probably sins more than me type of thing. That was my attitude all the time. And so I really didn't have, I was maybe agnostic. I really didn't have like a strong faith. I kind of knew there was a God, that kind of thing. But being molested as a child and being beat all the time and, going through the domestic violence and almost being murdered and being left and being homeless, it's hard to believe in a God when you're going through that. I was
right,
angry, very angry with
right.
him. If, he was real at the time, I was very angry. And, so that was me. I was seeking for something bigger and better than what the world was offering because the world was offering me crap and I needed something more. Right. And so I got into this religion called Santeria. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but it's
Yes.
basically, yeah, okay, you have. Okay. So Santeria is like worshiping saints and all this other thing and blah, blah, blah. And I did that for a few years, very, very depressed during doing it, very anxious all the time. Always. It was just a horrible experience for me. And then I just went, my house, my the apartment. We had a two apartment on top of a house, and the house burned,
Oh,
and
wow.
everything in the house burned down. And I just remember thinking, God, if you're real, then this ain't funny. First of all, and secondly, like you need to show me you're real. And I'm telling you, Rob, like the story there's is an impactful one, but it is something that God showed me he was real in this very miraculous way. And because of that, I just seeked him in everything that I did. And that has completely transformed my life.
So, I mean, as someone, I've cussed out God multiple times, and I've probably, you're speaking to my soul right now, as I've said the same thing. Like, if you're really here, why am I suffering so much?
Hmm.
What was your mindset? What did you like? How did you let that go? How did you realize that maybe God put you in these very extreme situations to have a relationship with Him and to be the person that Nina Perez is today?
Yeah, that is such a multifaceted question, right? Because I realized that yes, I was the same, angry with God, cursing at God, like throwing things, like all the things. And once I realized his amazingness, his sovereignty, his love for me, his care for me, like all of those things, Rob, could have killed me, but they didn't. Right? All of those things could have taken me out, but they didn't. And I realized that the world is bad. It's ugly. There's a lot of things here, right? God didn't beat me. My ex did, like,
Right, right.
those. And I had to shift my perspective and realize that he was with me, caring for me, watching over me. And he now uses all of what I've been through to impact the life of someone else. Because I honestly don't believe that we're supposed to be in this world just to be in it, suffer and die. I don't believe that, right? But I do believe that what you are doing is important right now. You are actually running a podcast where people can come and see what the battlefield is like and how do they overcome, right? Why? Because you've been through some shit, right? And so you can speak to it. And I believe that we have a call to help the other person. And I am grateful now for the story that I have. I think it's an impactful story. And it's transformed a lot of people's lives, especially when they've listened to my podcast or read my book. Because I know that because they've told me. And Rob, that's it, right? I now thank him for the story and thank him for the tenacity to be able to now look at the story and pull out what is beneficial and leave what isn't, and I think we need to strategize like that in our life.
So why do you think so? And I agree with you 100 billion% on everything. And it took me a long time to get to a point that I was the guy that if I had a time machine, I probably would go back in time and change things. And then now I'm the guy that all the trauma that I've been through, everything I've been through, my divorce with my first wife, like everything, I would do it all over again if I
Mm-hmm.
knew I was going to get back to this point.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I just wish I accepted my my servitude or whatever I've always had a service mindset. That's why I became a police officer. That's why I owned a gym. That's why my mission has
Yeah.
always been to help people, because for me, that's what makes me feel good. That's what makes me feel important, is something bigger than self and having that purpose. But at what point, why do you think people just get stuck in this insanity loop then, and think that they can't get out of this hell that they're in? Especially like you said, the way the world
Mm-hmm.
is, it's a very dark, scary, crazy place. And we've
Mm-hmm.
seen more and more mental health issues present their heads now with everything that's happened. Why is it so hard? Why are we good to go? I mean, so to speak, and obviously we're using these gifts to impact others, but why are so many people stuck, do you think?
Well, I believe there's a scripture that says that life and death is in the power of the tongue, right? And there's a lot of things that we say to ourselves, Rob, that we should not, because we would never say that to someone else, right?
Right.
Words can heal you or wound you.
Mm.
And so I have adopted the mindset, because I've read it in scripture and I want to believe all that's in the word, that I need to speak life over myself, over my situation, over my family. So instead of I can't handle this, I can't do this, I'm stuck in a loop, I shift that to I am equipped. I'm a survivor. I can do all things, right? So I have learned to shift the things that are coming at me, because I cannot control what comes at me to think, but I can control how long I stay on it.
Mm.
Right. So when something comes to me and like, oh, you're just not good enough, worthy enough, bad, good enough, pretty enough, whatever the enough thing is, I don't stick and stay there and massage it and make love to this horrible thought. You know what I mean? I just go, okay, well, where did that come from? Okay, that came from maybe something in the past or something I've seen or heard or whatever have you. Is it true? No, no, it's not. I can do all things. I can handle this. I've handled enough already. And that's the thing too. We just discard all of the things we've survived. Are you kidding me? Like, I know that those things are traumatic and I know that they've hurt you, but you've also gotten through it. And the key word to me is through.
Mm.
You're not stuck in it. You're not living still in it. It's, you've gotten through it. You're getting past it. Maybe you're in it right now. You also will get through this, especially if you wake up tomorrow. It's another day that you have gotten through that day. Right. And so there's a lot of things in our life that we can shift. Now, stop being ugly to yourself, because a lot of times we are so ugly to ourselves.
Mm.
I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I can't, I hate this, whatever the hardness is that you decide that you're going to adopt into your dialogue inside, or monologue, I should say, because you're saying it to yourself. But the thing is stop adopting what other people have said or done to you. Stop. Like, I don't care what my stepfather did to me. I don't care what my ex did to me. I don't care what people have done to hurt me. I am done repeating their mantra in my life. Right? So now I think about that all the time. Life and death is in the power of the tongue, and those who speak it will eat its fruit. That's what it says. So I want to eat the fruit that is sweet, Rob. I want to eat the fruit
Definitely.
that is kind to me, that is kind to my family. Because when we're ugly to ourselves, whether we like it or not, we are ugly to others, not
Yeah.
even wanting to be, but we are. right? So I don't want to live that life anymore. So I would say, lift up your sword of self-talk and start slashing down everything that does not belong to you. And when a thought comes to you that is not yours, bye. See you later. I'm moving on to something else. I'm going to go make some stuffed crab or something. I'm not doing this with you. Right. So we have to be responsible too. Right. We're adults now. We're not little kids anymore. And so, or we're not that person in that trauma stage at that point anymore. So let's take responsibility. Let's step up and let's start being kinder to ourselves and speaking life so that we can eat its fruit.
Man, that's okay. Show's over. Good job. Like that. Very powerful stuff. I love it. Guys, we're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to unpack all that because this is amazing stuff. Words of knowledge that Nina's dropping on us right now. So we'll be right back. They told you to stay comfortable. You chose the battle. Battle Fitted is for the few who live by discipline in the gym, in the mirror, and in the mind. This isn't just fitness, it's transformation. From our coaching and mindset resources to apparel that speaks without saying a word, to keynotes that shake rooms awake, we train warriors, not followers. No fluff, no shortcuts, just real work, real change. If you're tired of talking about it, prove it. Lock in your first workout, grab your gear, book the mission at battlefittedbrand.com. And we're back, and everything
Hold on. We got to pause. We got to pause for a second. Holy shit. You're a badass. Okay. I don't know who's listening, but y'all better go ahead and click on that link and do whatever, because this man right here, oh my goodness, sorry.
I made that commercial myself too. So
I love it. Wow.
I appreciate that. But everything you said is very impactful. And I just want to say to the audience, so I am, I guess you would consider a born again Christian. I have accepted Jesus Christ in my heart and soul as my Lord and Savior a long, long time ago. But for those that may not be religious, everything Nina's saying that she quoted from scripture is also available to you in reality in real life, even if you don't believe, because she just brought up something that like I have to keep practicing. And you got to remember, when it comes to mindset and like changing how we love ourselves and speak to ourselves, it takes practice. You're not going to be free of all this overnight. And she talks about reframing, and that's just making statements that aren't negative into positive. So instead of saying, I can't, I can, I won't, I will, I don't want to get up to, I get to get up. I don't want to go to work to, I get to go to work. It's just changing that thing. And I always tell people, like, from everybody I've spoken to, what you wouldn't believe is and it's hard to believe because you're like, this is so simple. How does this work? But it does. It does. If you have those evil thoughts creeping in, whether it's Satan, whether it's the universe, whether it's your own thoughts, and you can recognize that and not go down that darkness and say, okay, I'm going to pause for a moment and take a breath and change it into, I'm okay, I'm good, be thankful for something. That positive self-talk, that reframing can do a lot right there to change your mindset and start to get you out of the insanity loop. And I might be dating myself here as far as age. I don't know if you've seen this movie. Groundhog's Day is one of my favorite movies of all time. Not just because Bill Murray's comedy
he's
gold,
awesome. Yeah.
but just to watch that movie and think about, like, what would you do if you had to spend the same day over and over again? And essentially, if you get to wake up the next day, you do get to spend that same day over and over and over again. So are you going to be doing it in a negative light or a positive light?
And I tell people, especially with the women in my coaching group, right? So when they come and they're like, oh, and woe is me and blah blah blah, I said, okay, you have 3 minutes, go. And they're like, okay, and they start going through all the things, and then after 3 minutes, I'm like, how you feeling? Good? Yeah. Okay, let's shift. You know what I mean? Because the truth is we could stay stuck there, Rob. I've done it, right? So we can stay stuck in this loop, de loop, de loop, de loop. And then you get so accustomed to it, it becomes like a comfort blanket and you're still
Yep.
there. And years have gone by and you're still there. Like, at some point you have to break out of the matrix, right? The matrix of your mind, the matrix of the situation. And you really need to start focusing on that. It's true. If you say I can't, then switch it. And I know some of you are like, oh, that's silly. Try it then. It might be silly. So try it. Tell me how you think. You know what I'm saying? Like the truth is that we have to start healing from the inside and speaking life over yourself, over your situation, over your circumstances, over your mindset, all that stuff is going to help you. It is. Yes, it's biblical, but it's also, you're right, in the world. It's also what every one of us do. And you have to at some point take responsibility for that, right? And the other thing I also believe, and tell me what you think about this, but I believe isolation is the enemy's battlefield.
Mm.
Right? So healing to me happens when you're in community with others that are, love you, trust you, that you trust them, that you trust their word, their guidance. That's also super important. All right. So start seeking accountability, mentors, a trusted friend, somebody who can remind you of your strength. Okay. So the power of a tribe is
Mm.
so big, so big. You must believe that because you, in the work that you do this kind of work, especially when you own the gym and you did all the things. So that must have been a big piece of that for you.
So, I mean, definitely. And I want to say one thing, even as men, and I'm 47. As we get older, we become isolated,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the isolation sucks. And
Mhm.
so I'm a small business owner. I pretty much do everything out of my house right now. I'm very isolated in my house
Mhm.
by myself quite a bit, besides my two dogs and my two cats to keep me company while the wife's at work or whatever. And that's one of the reasons why next month I'm starting. I have the gym. I switched gyms, so unfortunately, I lost my gym community of everybody I knew. But I still go to a gym where it's a public place and there's people, and
Good.
you're working out and doing those things to keep you healthy and improve your health. But this is one of the reasons why I'm starting jujitsu next month, is to get into
Ooh,
the tribe, that community, to meet like-minded individuals and do those hard things to give me something to look forward
I
to,
love that.
get me out of the house. And
Mhm.
I just want to say, as a man, like, you owe it to yourself to try to. I know it's hard to make friends. Like, I am one of the hardest people to find. It's hard for me to find friends. It's hard for me to find like-minded individuals, especially as a guy who thinks very differently than society. But you owe it
Mhm.
to yourself to find those people that you can lean onto, you can talk to. They won't lie to you if you do something wrong. They won't lie to you if you want your advice. And especially in law enforcement and veterans, it's very hard for us to re-find a community when
Yeah.
that time is done. So whatever it is you love, if you love fishing, find a fishing club. If you love sports, find a sports club. Find a club or something to belong to, almost like when you were in high school and you would join all these clubs because you just
Mhm.
wanted to be around people. Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. We're pack like creatures. We're not meant to live in solitude and
No.
be alone. And unfortunately, when we're alone, that's when we're alone with our thoughts. And if you're a
Yeah.
very negative person and you're having negativity all the time, and then you do that doom scroll on social media and you see all these
Oh,
fake accounts with, oh, look at my
yeah.
Ferrari and
Yeah.
look at my abs and look at my
Yeah.
$1 million house. And then you're like, I'm in my townhouse. Why can't I have that? And it just makes things
Mhm,
worse. Yeah,
mhm.
you have to belong to groups or communities, I believe, to not only help with
Yeah.
your mental health, but your emotional health.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more too about men as they get older too. My husband is 60, I think he's 62 now,
Oh, wow.
and is very had been. Let me go back. He had been very isolated. Didn't really trust men. He's an army vet, that kind of thing. He's like, but when we started going to this new church that we're going to, he actually on his own went and decided to be part of like the security team at the church. And all the guys there are all law enforcement. They're all, army vets, like the whole, military vets, the whole thing. And he found his tribe. And now he's so much happier, Rob. And it's interesting, right? Because I thought he was fine before, but I didn't realize he was really missing this piece of having men and community and going out to barbecues with them and all the kind, going out shooting at the ranges, all that stuff. He was missing all of that. Right, Rob? So I'm glad you said that, and something that men, I think, have to work a little harder for. Women, I think we just do, like, we get
Yeah.
along with other women and we go to women's groups and blah blah blah, but it's not that easy for men.
Yeah, I can't keep track of my wife's friends. It's always like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
gonna go hang out with this person or that person. I'm just like,
Same with my husband.
I guess I'll be in the house alone again. So,
Mhm, mhm,
that
mhm.
I agree with that. So what led, after you found that peace and didn't decide to stay in that negativity, where did the service or call to service to begin? What did you start that led you down this insane path of everything that you're trying to do?
I think it was because I needed more healing, right? I think healing is a lifelong journey. It's not something
Mm,
that happens overnight. And I think people look for that, for it to happen overnight. But we need to realize that it's really a lifelong, fun and not so fun journey. And I wrote my book, Hit Me With Your Best Shot. And when I wrote it, I cried a lot during that book. I healed a lot during that book. I had to forgive a lot of people. But it was very cathartic. And I think that's what did it for me. As I wrote it and I published it, my family stopped talking to me for like 8 months or so because they were angry that I, threw out the dirty laundry out there for
oh
everybody to
wow.
see. But they got over it. And I knew they would, because I'm like, you know what, even if they don't, Rob, I need to heal. And I need to help maybe one more person out there heal. And when I wrote the book, that's what did it. That's what started to transform the way I was doing things and help me to really, mostly women. I mostly help women, kind of get through their own shit so that they can actually build what it is they want to build. And that's where the podcast was born, the book, the ministry, all the things. And I think it's because when you start to heal, you can't help it. You want to help someone else heal.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. I love. So, do you primarily or do you work with anybody, or do you primarily work with women? And have you dealt with women that have gone through very rough relationships or similarities to things you've been through in your life?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think all of us have been through so much that I think somewhere we will find something in common, right? As people,
Mm,
like, you and I have had traumas, different traumas, but they're still traumas. And I think at some point you connect with people in those levels. So yes, I mainly work with women right now, but I am starting, like I said, my new project. So that's really more where my love and joy is going to go, is with the cooking and coaching and all that stuff. But I've been a chef for 20 years. I've been helping the underserved community for a very long time. And what I do is I help them in the culinary field so they can get jobs in the kitchens and,
oh wow.
rebuild their lives and things like that. So there's a lot of really fun, amazing, beautiful things that God has used with the gifts he has given me. And I'm grateful. And I just do the best that I can. I never did before. I was burnt out all the time. I was tired. I felt, defeated and deflated. But, rest is a weapon, right? And we don't realize that burnout weakens your defense system, right? And so I don't know about you, Rob, but for me, in order to not think about my traumas, in order to have somebody think I was worthy or good enough, I would work 14-hour shifts. I would bust my tail. I would take everybody, I would go on and I would a people pleaser and the whole thing, because I needed to be accepted and loved
Mm.
and felt like I was worth something. And that burned me out fast, real fast. Yeah.
That's what you're kind of leading the podcast yourself here. That's what I was going to ask next with someone that does all this stuff, because I mean, it seems like you're doing a lot right now. You're a mother, you're a wife, you're go to your church and probably participate in your church, help the community, and building all these things.
Hmm.
What are you doing to keep from getting burnt out then? And if it's rest, what does that look like?
Oh, I learned how to say no. It's really powerful. I learned how to say no to myself, and I learned
Mm,
how to say no to others. And so that people pleasing thing that I used to have all the time with yes, 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 and then be angry and burnt out because I had to now do it because I said I was gonna, and I'm a person of my word. And so I had to learn to say no. And I realized that no is also a complete sentence. So I don't need to explain it. I don't need to
mm,
make you like me because I said no, and none of those things. It's just no. And because for me anyway, I have an autoimmune condition. So when I am stressed, my joints flare up, my muscles flare up, like all the things happen, and I can't do that to myself anymore. And so if I don't want to do it, I'm not going to. And if I say I'm going to be somewhere, I'm going to be there. And if I'm not, I'm not. And I've realized I don't have to be everywhere. I don't have to please everyone. And I do need to take care of myself. So now I'm on a health journey for me. I haven't done that. I haven't stopped to take care of Nina for a very long time. So
mm.
now I'm on a journey to lose weight and to feel better and to take care of what I'm eating and all of those things. So that's a lot of no to me though, Rob. 'Cause let me tell you, I'm a sugarholic, okay? I'm a sugar fiend. So there's a lot of no's that have to happen. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think sometimes the hardest no, like you said, is telling ourselves no. It's
Yeah.
that compromise with ourselves because even as us who would be considered coaches or whatever kind of
Mm.
box you want to
Mm.
put us in, we're not perfect either. And sometimes, especially when it comes to trying to be healthy, I mean, I'll tell everyone right now that it's 90% diet and 10% exercise.
Yeah.
And if there's food you love, I mean, hell, you basically are a chef. You're a
Yeah.
cook, so being in the
That's
kitchen is your thing.
sometimes that's an
So
issue.
definitely, and I understand that. And it's very hard to build that no within ourselves. And so for my community, when it comes to getting over mental health issues or telling yourself no or other people no, remember nothing is a perfect science. And
Yeah.
even though, and I have to say this like all the time, even though we live in this world of instant gratification where everything can come to us in an instant, anything worth doing or having or being, it takes time. You can't
Yeah.
be successful overnight. You can't lose 50 pounds overnight. You can't build muscle overnight. You can't build a business overnight. You have to realize that it takes time. So you have to get out of that mind suck of, well, I need the newest pill to lose weight, or I just need to do this one exercise to lose weight, or just if I had this one thing, I could be a billionaire. If I had this one, no, you have to take time to do all this. How long have you been like building all this stuff? Because you're building a lot of stuff, and I assume you do it because not only you get to help people and you also have a service mindset, but it's what you enjoy and makes you
Yeah.
happy, and you're on this path of, if you're going to be happy, you might as well do what you want, right?
That's correct. And I've been doing this for a long time. I think, wow, maybe really like strategically and looking in for about 15 years or so.
Wow.
And because I realize, and sometimes I still got to remind myself to train daily,
Mm,
not just in a crisis, right? I have to train daily. I mean, just like a soldier doesn't wait until the war to train, right? We shouldn't be waiting for adversity to come to strengthen our mind. And I think daily, and I know I always say I think I got to stop using that word. Daily mental fitness, my gratitude list, my breath work, scripture meditation, exercising, like all those things are becoming non-negotiables to me.
mm,
Where they used to be, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow. Well, my weight is now to a point where I'm like, okay, I thank God that my body's still healthy enough that I don't have any medical conditions except for my autoimmune. But if I keep on this track, I'm already 53. What is going to happen in 10 years? I'm going to be on diabetes medication, cholesterol medication, this medication. You know what I mean? Like at some point, I have to realize that I'm going to have to start training every single day to get to where it is I want to go. Right. So train daily and not just in a crisis, y'all. I think that if you start to take the time of really having habits that are different than the results you're seeing right now, because you're right now where you are because you're right now where you are. Like, in other words, you've really made it this is what you have manifested or I've created. And so if you don't like it, change it. And then you can actually see something different later and say, wow, I created that. Right. I think that a lot of my weight gain and a lot of my, sugar addictions and all those things in my life have been somebody else's trauma that they caused me. And
Mm.
now it's time for me to rewrite that story. What do I want it to look like?
I love that. It's very beautiful. I think, whenever you have that wake up call, it doesn't matter
Mhm.
if it's when you're younger or when you're older, you always have that. As long as there's breath in your lungs, you can decide how you're going to live, how you're going to change, how you're going to be. And you're exactly right when it comes to, so when I talk about health and fitness, nutrition, and being a better human or a better man, or it's a totality of circumstances. I don't do just one thing. I
Mhm. Mhm.
wish I wish there was like one magic bag that you
Me
could just,
too.
but life is hard and it doesn't work that way. So you have to, and I attribute to this just everything like to the gym, anything that you want to do, good habits, breaking bad habits, working out, eating, you have to get those reps in. It takes
Yeah.
reps and
Yeah.
reps and reps and reps and reps. And even then, when you get those reps in every day, like Nina said, I have a lot of non negotiables on my list of things that have to get done before I do anything else. So when you can get to a point that things become habit forming, they become non negotiable to the point where it just becomes automatic.
Yeah.
I automatically get up and just go to the gym because that's just what I do. And I'm not necessarily doing it because I want to have muscles or look good. No, I know that this is my key to longevity at 47, being able to continue to walk upstairs, to carry groceries, to play with my kids, to
Right.
get out of the shit if there's danger. Like that's why I do this and why fitness is so important, not for just the physical aspects, but the calming effect it has on me when I'm there and I'm locked in on a workout. I'm not thinking about that next business call or that next email or what my kid did to piss me off. No, I'm locked in the zone, allowed to just free think and
Mm.
focus on moving the weight versus today's shit show. And as soon as I walk out of the gym, yeah, it's back to the noise. But for that moment in time, that's my peace, my sanctity. And I think everybody needs to find some sort of piece in their life that they can do, that whether it's for 20 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, every part of your day, to just give you that mental break away from everything else.
100%. Gratitude is a big part for me, like just waking up every morning and, just thinking about all the things I'm grateful for. And then I've made it a habit now, as soon as I get out of bed, is right into my yoga and stretches and working out and all of that. And that has not been a habit forming thing for me. It is a struggle still, right? Because it's not
Mm,
something that's been a part of my life, but it is
right.
something I am starting to truly enjoy. And it's interesting to even say that, because I would say to you before, I hate working out, I hate it. But I realized that the reason I wasn't doing it is because I already told myself I hated it. And who
Mm,
wants to do anything they hate? You don't ever want to do anything you hate. So I started saying, you know what? This is so good for me. I am really starting to love this. And the truth is that I am. I am starting to love it. And I didn't before. So I think it says a lot about the words, right? And about what you say to yourself and how you speak to yourself. And sometimes when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you'll get well, you know?
yeah, it is what it is, exactly at that point. Like, I think everybody has that breaking point in their life, unless you just prefer to suffer, which I don't know really who prefers to suffer.
Right,
But
right.
everybody has that breaking point where you can make the change, or you can just either give up or go back in that insanity loop and have a pity party for yourself. But at the end of the day, like, for me, I got tired of pitying myself. I got tired of, like you said,
Same.
as
Yeah.
a police officer, I was already mad at myself, and then now I'm mad at the community that I'm serving, and then I'm coming home and I'm mad at my wife. Not because I'm mad at my wife, but because I'm mad at myself because I'm miserable.
Right.
And
Right.
and I was stuck in this loop of, oh, well, I guess this is just what it is. I guess this is what I'm just supposed to do. And I wish more
Mm,
people would realize that no, it's not. You do what you need to do to take care of yourself, to take care of
yeah.
your happiness. to be at peace, whatever that looks like. I mean, you have literally one chance. You don't get a do-over. So,
No, no, you don't.
you know,
No, you
why
don't.
right, why suffer in something that you're going to be miserable in?
I don't know why we naturally just think that it's, something that we have to stay stuck on, because life is going to throw us battles. I don't know why we don't realize that life's going to throw us battles when we've been through so many. Right. The truth is we're going to go through a lot of battles, but your mental health or what you're going through right now isn't about avoiding the fight. It's about getting in the damn ring. Right. It's about being in the battle, like actually fighting it out, because every scar, every setback, everything that you go through can either bury you or build you. Right. And the
Mm,
choice is yours. And that's what I had to come to in my life. Like either I'm going to let this depression, this anxiety, this worry, this anger, this frustration bury my ass, or I'm going to do something about it. Right. I think that's just always been this natural fight in me to not allow things to tear me down. And like you said, that at some point you just get to the point where you're like, okay, what am I going to do to change this? Right. So every setback is either going to bury you or build you. But the decision, that's yours. That is your decision. And whatever your decision is, we all have to respect it because it is your decision. But there's that scripture that says, um, you can choose life or death, but I ask you to choose life. And I think that that's something that we all have to remember. Like, you do have decisions, choose life or death, and I'm going to ask you to choose life, because it's worth it. It's freaking worth it. And
I,
it's a great battle to have, I think.
I wish more people or women in general thought like you. And unfortunately, I think we could do a whole another episode on society and the softness of
Oh,
society. And,
yes.
unfortunately, that's that's the problem why people are stuck.
Mhm.
That's why you're here. That's why I'm here. That's why the Andy Frisellas, Ed Milet's, Bedro Killian. This is why all these guys are here, to show you the different path, because society wants you to be stuck. Society
Yes,
wants you
it
to be sick.
does.
Society wants you to be fat. Society wants you to be angry, because then they
Mhm.
have complete control over your life, your friends, your family. Everybody has control over you. You have to
Oh
control
my gosh,
yourself.
yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, think about it, right? It's the comparison culture, right? Always comparing ourselves to somebody's highlight reel.
I do it
Like,
too. I
yeah, I
still
do
do
it
it. I
too.
try not to, but
Me too. Me too. But that's what happens when you're not grateful or focused on your gratitude of what you have. Right, when you are not focused on the gifts that you have and the gratitude that you have. We take for granted these things. Like, there's people who woke up today who lost their sight or their hearing or their ability to move their bodies, and like, we have those things with those of us who have them, and
no, we
we
still
are not
complain.
grateful. Yes, we're still not grateful because the other person has the best house. And I do the same thing, Rob. Like, that is such a manipulation of the enemy. I call it a manipulation of the enemy, right? This thing that we're looking at everybody's highlight reel. When we were younger, I'm 53, right? When we were younger, we didn't have social media, so we
Right.
didn't have that. We might have compared ourselves to somebody, our neighbor or something, but then when they were out of sight, it was out of sight, out of mind. Now it's in your face all the time.
Yeah.
Right? So you're absolutely right. I mean, society will keep you stuck as much as possible. And then it's the busy thing too, right? Being the guru and the best at everything. Right? So, if you're not hustling, you're lazy. I mean, there's just so much that we can dig into this. It's crazy, right? Fear basing messages, like everything is about making you afraid and scared, and everything is the big bad wolf on the corner, and but they're the best, and the other people aren't. I mean, yeah, we can do that. We could do a whole another hour of that.
That's why I actually like the saying ignorance is bliss,
Yeah.
because I stay in my lane, so to speak. One of the things that people don't realize, and if you know Angie Frisella, he talks about
Oh
this all
yeah.
the time. He talks about that. Why are you getting so frustrated and upset over what the government does and what our leaders do and what's because ultimately no one's telling you you can't make $1 million. No one's telling you you can't be the person you want to be. No one's telling you you can't be successful or famous or powerful. You're telling yourself you can't.
Yeah,
And you're using excuses like, oh, well, the president this and the governor that and society that. And you said something earlier that I tell people all the time: if you don't like something, change it.
that's right. That's right. Because your freedom is going to begin when you stop living by what society's script tells you. That's where your freedom is, right? You're designed for something different and a different life, and you're supposed to live your life, like you said, in your lane, and stop veering off the lane. You're just taking a long time to get back onto the road you're supposed to be on. And we're just allowing society and everything else to just steal that and rob it from us. Right. And so I think that, yeah, this can definitely go down that road, because I know for me, I had to stop watching a lot of the news and stuff like that because I was getting angry and pissed and all the things. Right. And I've even lost friends over politics. Are you kidding me?
It's the dumbest, yeah,
It's the
dumb.
dumbest thing in the world. So, I was like, okay, whatever, dude. Like, if you don't want to talk to me anymore after 27 years of a friendship, then I guess we weren't really friends, because this is stupid.
Yeah.
Right? Because to me, politics are theatrics. Somebody comes in and does this whole theater thing and it looks really good. Then they leave. The next person come in, undo everything they did, and we're still in the same roller coaster. I'm done with it. I'm just like, I just want to have a good, peaceful life, fight the battles I need to battle, win the ones I need to win, and keep moving forward to impact lives. That's it. Period.
I love that. So in the grand scheme of things, besides the cooking show, what's next for you? What else do you have or that you dream about that's going to come to fruition or that you're going to manifest here in your life?
Oh, well, I tell my husband this. I said, so I have 2 years. I want to go buy a lot of land and I want to start my
Mm,
own homestead. I
mm.
love like goats and chickens and duck and all that. He's looking at me like I am on crack. Okay. He's like, hell no, because it'll be me out there doing the chickens and the goat and nothing. And I'm like, no, I'll help. He's like, no, you will not. But that is what I would love to do. I would love to be able to still do my beautiful, cooking at home and helping others and impacting lives. But I really would love to be outside in nature, not listening to the news and the social media and all the crap, and just be, Rob. I just want to be. And if I can be in nature surrounded with a bunch of animals, I would be a happy woman, let me tell you.
Yeah, so interesting about that. So, you live in Texas. I'm sure you're in like the more city part of Texas, and I'm
Mhm.
in Coconut Creek, Florida, in city essentially. And I went to Kalispell, which I've never heard of, Kalispell, Montana, for business for 4 days. And the weirdest, and like I can't explain this, I don't understand this, but the weirdest thing is I got out there and there was no noise. There was
Oh,
no like inside my head, inside my soul, like just seeing the mountains, just seeing like things that were green. And obviously where I was at, they had Walmarts and Targets and shopping centers and all that stuff, but not to the extent of people honking at you every 5 minutes and
mhm,
flipping you
mhm.
off and cutting you off. And I'm just looking at this, this beauty and breathing this fresh air. And I felt at peace. Like I literally felt at peace. I was like, wow, like
Yeah. Yeah.
this is amazing. So I have dreams of having a summer home or a home I can go to somewhere, whether it's Tennessee, Montana, somewhere away from the main drag, where it's just
Mhm.
a place where I can go to just sit in silence and have that quietness with not the overwhelming of the day to day hustle and bustle. So I kind of love that. I don't know about a whole farm thing unless I'm raising some cattle to make my own steaks, but
Me too. Hey, listen. But that's the thing. I think there's something to be said about that nature. There's something to be said about not having all of this stuff coming at us, because back, let's go like 300 years, 400 years. They didn't have all this stuff, and we had more reverence for God too. God didn't get so like flippant like
convoluted.
people are
Yeah.
now, like they just flip it. Like back then we had more reverence, we had more respect for our neighbor, we had more respect for, the land and what we
A
did and
country.
how, yeah, we really, really, in our country, yeah, we really did. right? We really did. And so there's something to be said about that. I don't think our human minds and bodies are supposed to be getting all of this information as fast as we're getting it all the time. And I think, honestly, don't get me down the conspiracy theory road, but I just feel like, that's done on purpose. It just keeps you in a loop, not knowing what to do, needing to rely on other people and other things instead of just going with your instincts, with going with what is right and wrong, your morals, things like that. So, but that's a conspiracy theory road. We'll go down there one day if you want to.
But what you're saying is just how I wish the human race or people were like. Have your own independent thinking.
Yes.
Don't let people decide how you're going to feel, think, and act. If something doesn't feel right to you, don't jump on that bandwagon. Like,
Right.
just it. I've always and like you said, I don't like to talk about politics because people just don't understand and they get so
Worked
emotional. I don't
up. Yeah, they get
understand it.
worked up.
And
Like,
I
come
don't
on.
understand why they get worked up when, for me, I just always try to vote for the lesser of two evils. The problem is there hasn't been any good lesser of two evils. So at that point, what do? You pick,
You pick the
in my
best one.
opinion, I pick who I think is the best one. And that
Same.
doesn't mean that my decision is right or wrong. It's just what I chose. And I hope for the best. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to let that defeat how I act, how I feel, how I
Right.
love, how I live.
Right. Because at the end of the day, Rob, it doesn't matter who is quote unquote running the country, which we really don't know who that is, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if I needed something and you were my neighbor, I hope you can help me, and vice versa. Right? Because it doesn't matter who's in the White House and who's in the government, but they're not going to come down and help y'all. They're not,
Right.
but your neighbor will, but
Right.
your family will, your friends will. And that's what we should be focusing on. How do we impact our communities, our friends, our family? How do we love on each other, have a good time, have a good meal? Just that, right? And all the stuff, all the theatrics and the politics and everything happening in the movies and all that stuff. I feel like politics is just a big movie.
Mhm.
We just haven't gotten the full script yet. That's all. It's all theatrics. But same as you, I believe that we have the right to choose what we feel is best, and it should be respected the same way we should be respecting theirs, even if we don't understand it or if they don't understand ours. Period.
Right.
And
It
let's
shouldn't
move
be an
on.
argument. Right,
Right.
exactly.
If you like chocolate and I don't, okay,
Oh,
so
well,
let's
right,
find
that's
something we do like together, you know?
exactly. I think
Yeah.
we've gotten away from that
Oh,
over
yeah.
time, unfortunately, and social media has done a great job of
Great job.
continuing that divide. So, um,
Mhm.
where can people what's the name of the book again? Where is it at, and where can people find you and link up with you?
Yeah, so if you wanna link up with me, just go to my website. It's ninaperez.com, and Nina is NEENAPEREZ. Um, and the book is called Hit Me With Your Best Shot: How I Overcame a Hard-Hitting Life. That's on Amazon and Barnes& and Noble and all the book places. But you can find me anywhere, Nina Perez or Straight Talk No Sugar Added, you will find me. Thank you for
Yeah,
having me.
check out the Coach Rob episode. It's the best episode ever. Um,
Ever.
I always ask my guests this before I close out the show.
Sure.
Nina, what is your definition of turning pain into progress?
I'm sorry,
Pain into progress.
turning pain into progress. I think that my definition of turning pain into progress, I have so many things going in my head right now, right? I feel like every scar, that every setback, that everything that you have tried to not think about or bury or whatever is an opportunity for you to grow and expand your life and the life of others. That's how I think you turn pain into progress. Your scars are beautiful, right?
Hmm.
I feel like I forget about that Japanese art, but when something breaks and they put it back together with
Oh, yeah,
gold
yeah,
in the
yeah,
middle,
yeah.
yeah, that's how I feel like all our scars are, all our battles, all the things we've gone through. So turn that into something that'll impact the world.
That's awesome. And I thank you so much for being here on the podcast today. Guys, you just heard very, I love how you speak. Like,
Thank you.
just hearing the words that come out of your mouth on this episode were amazing. And guys, that's why I want to show you. This is why I do what I do. This is why I try to tell these stories We have a woman here who went literally through hell and back, and through God and her effort, she found her purpose, which is the purpose of helping others, serving others, living a purposeful life. I guarantee you, no matter where you're at in life, if you start living with purpose, your life is going to improve tenfold over. So start living with purpose, start being the example, set the example for your friends, your family, your kids. Be the man or woman that you want to be, regardless of what everybody else thinks, and never hold back and never quit. Guys, it's been another episode of the Battle Hard Podcast. And one thing that we talked about was information overload. And I just started a new series called the Battle Ready series. I'm dropping 25 solo episodes on the hardest personal development questions, and I'm answering them live on air. Each episode is only 15 to 20 minutes long, so you can listen to it really quick, get the information, and get out. And the first episode dropped yesterday called Information Overload. Check that out here on the YouTube or wherever podcasts are available. And as I always like to say to my community before I end the show, remember one thing, to always be fit for battle. Thank you.
You've just heard another battle-tested conversation. Now it's time to take action. If this episode lit a fire in you, subscribe on Spotify, Apple, iHeart, or YouTube, so you never miss a moment that could change your life. Want to go deeper? Connect with Coach Rob at BattleFittedBrand.com for coaching, gear, and tools to help you turn your pain into progress. Remember, life will test you, but you're built to battle harder. Until next time, stay locked in, stay ready, and keep showing up.